Welcome to Wonders and Miracles podcast, where we celebrate miraculous moments in everyday lives. I'm Liza Lawrence. I'm glad to have you join me as we celebrate wonders and miracles together. All right, well, I am here today with Kunthea, and she is going to share with us an amazing story, her journey, really, of finding the gospel of Jesus Christ. She's from Cambodia, and in 1975, the communists came in and took over Cambodia. She was separated from her family, and she's going to share with us some amazing miracles that she experienced during this time and throughout her life. So, Kunthea, thank you so much for sharing your story with us here on the podcast, and tell us what happened.
Well, thank you so much for having me. In 1975, communists came and took over. So my mother was working in a different city. My father was home, and it was Cambodian New Year. So I was at home with my father and the rest of my family on my father's side, but mother was working, so she wasn't at home for the celebration of Cambodian New Year at all. So communists came in and just forced us to get out of our home with gunpoint. We did not know where to go, but to go wherever they wanted us to go. So my father and I and my brother and my grandparents left home, and we joined our extended families, aunts and uncles and many other cousins, and we all just went wherever they told us to go. So after a walk back and forth for so many days, they told us to come back to our home. But when we came back home, almost to our hometown, everything was taken completely. The communists had total control of our home and our belongings, so we could not go back home at all. So we had to make a place with whatever to survive or shelter us outside of our hometown.
And were there a large group of people if making shelters and living outside?
Yes, but we were not close to one another. So
Okay.
they scattered us all over.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they did not want us to do is to be so close and maybe gang up on them.
Yeah.
So we were scattered all over town in some undeveloped region, away from our home. At this time, my father, my grandparents, and I and my brother were together, but my extended family were somewhere else. They could not be near us. And then one by one, they started to separate our extended family also. There were big trucks that came and took family one by one to wherever they wanted them to go, and I had no idea where my extended family had to go, but we were separated one by one, and all of a sudden there was no one else, just my father, my grandparents, and my brother. And soon after that, it was just me. They died one by one. Educated people were murdered or executed. About a month or two later, we were put in a big truck and was taken away from this spot also. Where we were going, we did not know. It was somewhere north of Cambodia. It was a place where was nothing at all, undeveloped. It just trees, and it was just like jungle. And so we were taken there. There, my father, my grandfather, and I and my brother were forced to work in the rice field and wherever they see fit to make us do. I felt like I was the strong one, that I stay healthy enough to go do whatever. Grandfather was sick, bedridden at this time, and my father also was not well. So was my brother after starving for so many days. The communists controlled everything, so we did not have any food or anything at all. Go to work, and there's a place they cook for us. Sometimes there's little food, Sometimes there's nothing at all.
And how old were you and your brother at this time?
At this time, I think I was 13, he was 12.
Mm.
And a few months later, grandfather died of starvation. He was 76 or 77 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So he died. I came home from the rice field. Grandfather was there, and father said, grandfather died. He passed away.
Mm.
I don't know how they buried him. He was taken away and buried somewhere, and that was the last things I remember about grandfather. Life went on, doing whatever the communists told us to do. My brother became really, really sick. His face was swollen. His whole body was swollen due to lack of food. And one day, again, I came back from the labor at the rice field. He died. So at this time, it just my father and I left. And soon after that, I can't remember, a few months after that, father was taken away and put in an adult camp, and I was put in children camp. I don't know how long, maybe months. The communist leader at this children camp said that I and a group of children have to be taken away from this town. And I knew that I would not see my father again. So I escaped that night. Wow. To go see my father for the last time. So I walked through the dark, through the jungle, being 13, to just see my father one more time. So I went and I saw him, and he was really sick. He was just like bones and skin. And he walked with a cane, and he was a strong, healthy man. And I told him what would happen, and that I had to be taken away with some of the children. He offered me some food that they gave him to eat, and there wasn't anything at all. And I could not do that. I could not eat his food. And I said goodbye. And so I walked back and found whatever in the jungle, wild fruit or berry, to survive that day, and went back to the camp. And early in the morning, I was put in that big military truck again. It was covered, couldn't see outside. And I saw a lady who was just walking outside of that truck when I stepped into the truck, and I said, please tell my father they are taking me away. I don't know when I would be back or see him again. And that was it. And that was the last time I saw my father.
Wow.
And so years passed at this forced labor camp. I don't know where I was taken, but a few years I spent there with other children who were taken away from their families. Many of them died of starvation. And so many times I nearly died of sickness and starvation, but some reason I survived. And so after years, having spent time at this camp, they brought us back to where we were. Father was gone. I was told that my father died. He's gone. And so here we were at another children camp. And we were forced to work in the garden and the rice field and whatever. And I was starving to death. Everyone was starving to death. And I remember in the garden we grew cucumber. And I wanted to get up in the middle of the night to go pick up a cucumber to eat. I probably didn't care if I get caught, I died or whatever, because I was so hungry. I was dying of hunger. Mm-hmm. So I got up in the middle of the night. I walked to the garden and picked a cucumber. I got caught. The guard of that camp, they were teenagers. They were 13, 14, 15. They said I must die. So they tied me up. They tied me up to a tree, hand behind my back. And they were going to kill me with a plastic over my head. They were going to suffocate me that way. So I was so frightened. In my mind, I was praying. I was not a Christian then. I was Buddhist. My family was Buddhist. And so I was praying to someone. I don't know who I was praying to, but please help me. And then as I was praying, as they were putting the bag over my head, there was another boy. He is the leader or the top leader of that children camp. He was about 15. He walked by. I don't know where he came from. He walked by and said, "Let her go." And these people, these teenagers, were trained to be very brutal. They do not think they killed you just like that. Mm-hmm. But that boy, I don't know where he came from. He walked by and said, "Let her go." They let me go.
Wow.
And I survived. They let me go back to the camp. They did not let me escape. I stayed in the camp and were watched over by those camp guards. But they did not kill me. They let me continue on.
That's amazing.
So, and there were so many other stories after that I would be killed or died of something, starvation or sickness, but I did not. Later on, probably 6 months later, they wanted to take some of the children away from this camp also to a different camp. And the camp leader came and said, "This other place where we are taking you is a safer place, and we would have more food for you to eat." And every children in that camp wanted to go because they heard that there would be more food to eat. And I raised my hand, I wanted to go. I don't want to stay here. We've been starving to death. And then that camp leader said, "No, you cannot go because you are too sick and too skinny. You may not be able to tolerate the region or the labor that you would be told to do, even though there's more food." You could not argue. When you told to not do it, you don't do it. So I was disappointed inside, but I stayed behind. Just a few months later, I found out those children who were taken away from there were all murdered.
Wow.
They took them there to just kill them. I was saved one more time.
Wow.
I don't want to offend people. I know my family died, my brother died, and many of my extended family, but people may question why you were saved and not the rest of the children in that group.
So why do you think that was the case?
I didn't understand at the time, but now I understand. I believe the children were going through a horrible time. I sometimes felt guilty. Why me? Why I am saved? Why I'm alive and not many people, many innocent, good people had to die. Knowing the loving and the just of God, I am sure He is taking them to the other side, and they are taken care of on the other side, so they wouldn't have to go through the horrible thing that they would have for a long time. Maybe the Lord knew that I was strong enough that I was able to endure those things. But that's how I felt. I felt guilty, but I believe that the innocent, good people who were murdered at that time or died somehow during that communist regime were taken away to the other side, and they were at a better place. They were taken care of, and they are taken care of on the other side. And so To make long story short, I did not realize that at the time until I came here to this country, to the United States, and I became a Christian. I joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I understood there wasn't anyone else who saved me. It was God and my Savior Christ, that I was prevented to be murdered. Everyone was gone from my family. I don't know where my extended family were. I don't know where they were taken away, but all my immediate family was gone. I was the only one. They all died. And when I joined the church, I understood that I had to be introduced to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it has been a blessing in my life. Temple work has been done for my family. Those beautiful big temple that we have, and we were sealed together as a family in that beautiful temple, and we can be together forever. I have no doubt that my family is waiting on the other side. They love. When I go to the temple, I was given a vision. Time after time, I saw them. I have seen my family. The Lord tells me they are fine. They are waiting on the other side for me to go, and we will be together forever again. And I can't find a better blessing than that. And if I did not know the gospel of Jesus Christ, I would be despair. I would think that all is lost. I would never ever see my family again, and it's just a sad story. But I've learned that God is just, and Jesus Christ came and atoned for all mankind, and He makes it possible for family to be together. He was resurrected, so will we. And one day we'll be together, and it would be a beautiful reunion one day. And I'm looking forward to that. Because of that, I have hope. I don't feel despair, but all the hope in my heart that I will see my family again. And it will be a beautiful day. And that is because the love of God for me and for all mankind.
That's beautiful. Is just amazing. How old were you when you came to the United States?
I was 22. So after all the sad thing that had been happening during that communist regime, the Vietnamese came in late 1979 and took over. Vietnamese invaded Cambodia. It was like a rescue.
Yeah.
The communists was not strong enough to fight with the Vietnamese, so they gave up. They escaped. They ran for their life, and it gave us a chance to run for our lives as well.
Wow.
I met an older lady at that time who lost all her family also, so I escaped with her. We walked across the border to Thailand, to the refugee camp. And when we got there, many people were there. People were doing the same thing. Many people were able to escape. And we got to the camp and waited in the camp for 5 more years before we could come here to the U.S. So I was 22 when I came to the U.S.
Wow. Was anyone relocated to their original towns?
Yes, later on I found out after I came here to the United States, my cousin, my extended family went back to the hometown, and they could not get into the house that they own. People who had gotten there first took over, whoever got there first, whatever house was available, they took over, and they could not have their home, and they could not get into my home even. It was taken over by other people who got there first. So they had to build a new life, new home. I found that out after I came here to the United States. probably a couple of years after I arrived, I wrote a letter to Cambodia. I remember my home address.
Wow.
So I just wrote a letter and sent it. I did not know if it was going to get there or what. The mailing system in Cambodia at that time from the US, it was not guaranteed. I didn't know that the letter would get there at all. Evidently it did. So it was posted at a public square.
Oh.
And I received a response from one of my cousins. And then he told all the cousins that still alive that came back to the hometown, and everybody responded. And that's when I found out that I still have many extended family in Cambodia at this time.
Wow. What was that like, hearing that news?
It was very exciting, knowing that some of them still alive and they are well. But it was said that they could not come, and I could not sponsor them because it's an extended family. My immediate family all died. It's not quite true. I was able to sponsor one of my cousins. I sponsor her here to visit. She came here on a visitor visa. So she came. We had a good time together. So I sponsored her and her mother also, but her mother went back. She was an older person. It was just not a life for her here. She missed her grandchildren and children in Cambodia, so she decided to go back. But my cousin stayed behind, and she met an American man, and they fell in love. She got married. So she got married, and he was able to sponsor her. And so she was able to stay. And she became a US citizen. And so she is able to stay here permanently.
Wow.
She also joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She was able to do the temple work for her father and many of her siblings who died and killed at that time. And so it's a beautiful thing for her also. And I feel it's a blessing, the way that she was able to come in here to this country, how I was able to sponsor her. Normally, she would have to wait for a long time, or sometimes not at all. She wouldn't be able to come at all, but she was able to come and able to stay and able to join the church. And it's a beautiful thing.
That is just another miracle. I love that.
Yes, it is another miracle.
So you came over to the United States, and where were you living? And how were you introduced to the church?
Okay, so I came to Oakland, California. I was married in the refugee camp. And I was 18. My marriage was arranged, and this is nothing surprise to my culture. It just the way it has been. Marriages are arranged by parents or by older people in the community. So that's what happened to me. So my marriage was arranged. I was married and had 2 children while we were waiting in the refugee camp. So after I got married, we completed the application to go to a country, whatever country accepted a refugee to come. So Australia, United Kingdom, France, United States were accepted refugee to come. So I was accepted to come here to the US to come as a family together.
Wow. So you came over with him and your 2 children.
Yes. So we arrived in California January 1985. My oldest was 2 years old. My second one was 21 days old.
Wow. Oh, and I'm sure a long travel.
From Thailand to the Philippines.
Okay.
So we had to wait at the Philippines for about 6 months before we could come here. There were many transit camps after you accepted to come here or to other countries. So we had to go from one camp to another. So from Thailand to the Philippines, and then to here. We arrived Oakland, California. Probably a year later, I think, that's when I met two missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They knocked on my door. Due to the culture, a woman don't open the door for, but they look trustworthy, so I let them in. And they told me about the Church of Jesus Christ. They told me some of the history of the church, and they learned my story, that I lost all my family. The missionaries were very excited to share the gospel. But what won my heart over was that family can be together forever, that I can see my family again. And that's what won my heart over.
And I can see from your history why that would be so important for you. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or lessons that you learned and have learned throughout this experience and throughout your life?
Yes, of course. I've learned to forgive. I would be bitter, coming here to this country. Life, it was hard, it was not easy, and no one here to help you to express your concern, your problem. I had my own family, so I would be sad and maybe angry because of what had happened, why it had to happen, why the commerce had to be so brutal. But I learned from all of this when I found my Savior, Christ. I learned to forgive. All the sad things, all the anger was gone, was taken away from me.
Wow.
And I learned to forgive all the time. Life is not perfect. There are people who give you a bad time, who hurt you. And I learned to forgive. I don't hold on anger. I don't get revenge. I learn through all of this to forgive because I feel so much love from my Father in heaven and my Savior. And I'm forgiven. I'm not a perfect person. I'm forgiven. And I learn I too must give. And in doing so, I feel peace, and I feel loved, and I feel happy, and I have hope when I forgive.
Such a powerful, important, freeing life lesson. So that's beautiful. And I think I did an episode on forgiveness, and we talked about how that is miraculous. That's a miraculous experience to learn how to forgive and to feel that release of pain that you've held on for so long. To let that go is so divine, and I think comes from a divine source, from that love that you feel from the Lord. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you. I'm so honored that you would share this story on the podcast, and what a miracle, so many miracles throughout that you have been saved and you've been able to do the work for your family, and that you will be reunited at some point. I think that's beautiful. So.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be able to share my story today. Yeah, I hope people listen and know that there's a love from up above, a love of God for all mankind.
I love that message. It's a powerful message. Thank you so much for listening to this miracle story. Please subscribe to my channel if you liked it. You can also find me on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. And remember to notice and celebrate miracles